Made Things, written and narrated for you by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Chapter 1. Coppelia always got too into her performances. For an actual puppeteer it would have been a good trait, but for a thief it was terrible. Still, she was doing Simeon the Garden-born, and that was worth doing well. She had just about tuned out her audience, no idea whether there were coins in the hat, as she did the bit where Simeon the grown thing confronts his creators for the first time. The scarecrow figure, lifting its leaf-ended arms piteously, and the squeaky voice she gave it, denying the grim destiny fate had set out for it. When she looked up, there were a couple of broadcaps in the audience, and everyone else was either sidling away or obviously more interested in her getting a kicking than good puppetry. She knew all three of them. Fountains Parish was her stamping ground, and all the local law were familiar faces, though more celebrated in their absence than their almost within arm's reach presence. Belly Keach was a nasty brute if he got his hands on you, but he wasn't exactly a pal for chasing you anywhere or working up a sweat. Beside him was lean, bony Lynx Serifo, the name he was actually born with, and woe betide any street scum trying to give him a new one. He was religious in that particular way that meant he took a sanctimonious pride in the whippings he doled out for petty offences, such as being poor and not running away fast enough. On the other hand, Coppelia knew of an obliging lady who laid stripes on his bony buttocks 3 times a week, and she reckoned that this knowledge served as a shield of sorts against him truly getting into his swing. The catchpole in charge of them was Lucas Mallhands, though, and he was another matter entirely. Shorter than either of them, with knuckles like the studs on a bailiff's club, and clever, and at least a half-mage, just like she was. He had his arms folded, those strangler's mitts of his half out of sight in the baggy sleeves of his blue robe. The other two had their hats on still, wide navy brims shading their faces from the heat of near noon, but old Lucas didn't care about the sun on his stubbly scalp and wasn't sweating either, some charm of his underclothes doubtless keeping him cool. Which led Coppelia to wonder how she might abstract those items from his person or his nightstand, because if you were a thief in Loretz, then your fingers itched for the magic the place was famous for. Her parents had travelled there from 80 miles distant, looking for the city of magi that would value both their arcane and their artisanal skills. It hadn't worked out for them. Whether it was working out for Coppelia was a question each day had a new answer for, but she hadn't looked back when she crept out of the orphanage window. Mallhands had been after her back then, not a catchpole yet, but a tireless hound in the service of the convocation, and had never caught her, which meant she was a fishbone lodged in his throat as far as he was concerned. Just her luck to snag one of the few broadcaps who actually burned with a need to do his duty, rather than just take some coin on the side and turn a blind eye. Not that she had the coin, right now. And she actually was a thief, and this performance, through some fairly oblique means, was accessory to larceny. And if he had just wanted to run her in for no reason at all, he'd be within his rights to do that too, because she was one of the teeming multitudes from the barrio, and that made her fair game this side of the river. He caught her eye, did Mallhands. He had a face like an old envelope, creased and rectangular, burnt manila by the sun. One of those creases was the crook of his narrow mouth. A man willing to stretch his sacred duty by just enough to get one particular gutter snipe into the stocks, or to the whipping post. Or perhaps he really was as straight as he made out and just assumed she was about some piece of villainy, in which case he'd be right, and it wouldn't help her anyway. Seeing they weren't going to descend on her and just kick apart the opened-up box she was using as a stage, Coppelia mustered her dignity and went on with the scene. She'd spent all last night kenning the speeches after all, she might as well make the most of them. She kept her eyes strictly on her little mannequins or the broadcaps, because her accomplices were out there, and who knew, they might pull something out of the fire. They were a resourceful lot, and Mallhands didn't know about them. Oh, when he and his sauntered into Red Fountain Square, doubtless he looked all...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?